Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Narcissism Decoder. I'm your host, Dr. Anthony Mazzella. In this episode, I'm joined by Valerie Greene, a relationship coach and speaker who specializes in helping women and couples attract and sustain lasting love. Valerie discusses the concept of codependency, contrasting it with interdependence. She explains, through a personal example with her own mother, how codependency is rooted in childhood experiences and emotional neglect. This leads individuals to prioritize others' needs over their own. Through real-life examples, again, another rich example with her husband, and practical advice, Valerie provides insights into how to establish healthy boundaries, and yes, I say healthy, not just pushing people away with a boundary, but boundaries which enable deeper connections. I hope you find this episode both insightful and valuable. Okay, without further ado, here's my conversation with Valerie Greene. Hello, Valerie. Welcome to the Narcissism Decoder. We're so excited to have you here with us.
Thank you. Yes, this is a topic I'm passionate about, and I'll speak about.
Okay, great. So I know that you've spent years helping women and couples build lasting, fulfilling relationships, and you have a really deep understanding of the patterns that keep people stuck, right? And unhealthy, let's say, dynamics. Since codependency is such a big part of toxic relationships and narcissistic relationships, by the way, that's why we're so happy to have you here. Maybe that's a good place for us to start. Let's maybe just start with like your definition of what's codependency? Like, what does that mean? And I guess, how does that differ from somebody who's not codependent, right? Maybe we call it interdependence.
Exactly.
Okay.
Interdependence is the term for healthy, the belief that my needs are just as important as your needs. And we can create win-win solutions that work for both of us.
Okay.
We're both equally important. So as I shared in my interview of Anthony on my podcast, so we'll share links.
Yes.
In my opinion, codependency, since it's not a personality disorder, it's not a pathology in the DSM, it is, in my opinion, it's a set of beliefs and a set of skills or lack of skills that make up the phenomenon of codependency. So one of the major beliefs is about interdependence that needs to get shifted. So the difference between codependence and interdependence. Codependence is basically, it's a dysfunctional habit, that's beliefs and a habit, of I don't have the awareness of what I'm feeling and needing. All I know is that I need the other person to be happy. I'm not okay if they're not okay. I'm only okay if you're okay. So it's that belief coupled with people-pleasing behaviors, sacrificing my own needs to please you. If push comes to shove, your needs are more important than mine, because if you're happy, then that's all I need to be happy. I don't have any other needs other than you being happy. The only thing I have a problem with is that you're not happy. So if you're not happy, I have to fix and change you. But you're happy because that's what I need to be happy.
And then if I'm happy, just to follow up with that, what sort of impact does that have on you, if any? Like, you're happy, but if I'm happy, am I giving you something? Like, what's happening, I guess, in the dynamic as long as I'm happy?
Right. And that's what makes it toxic, because a healthy dynamic, so interdependence, is also based on, I want to say fulfillment rather than happiness, because happiness is kind of a fleeting emotion, whereas fulfillment is the experience that I know what I need and my needs are being met. And, I know what my purpose is and I'm living it. And I know what my values are and I'm true to them. It's a deep feeling of fulfillment. Happiness comes and goes. But regardless of what's going on outside of us, we can be fulfilled if we're self-connected. And that's the experience that codependents are lacking. They don't necessarily, they either don't know what they need or how they're feeling, or they might know what they need or how they're feeling, but they have a belief that if I say it, it'll rock the boat. And so I'm not going to say, I'm going to sweep conflict under the rug and then just pretend like everything's fine. So to answer your question, the toxic dynamic that sets up is like, if you're happy, I don't need anything else.
That's so interesting. And they know that they have some needs, you're saying. So there may be, maybe not, I guess, but there may be some awareness of that. It sounds kind of sad, but maybe it doesn't feel sad to them. Is that like, do they present as sad? Because I say sad only because I'm imagining if I recognize maybe in some way that I have a need, but I'm making it all about your needs, that something it's going to feel like it's missing maybe inside of me. But I don't know. I'm like, how does it typically present? I mean, when they get to you, Valerie, I guess they recognize already that something's wrong. Is that right?
Well, yes, but usually when a codependent seeks support, what they think is wrong is that the other person needs to change. Because they only know how to put attention on the other person. They don't know how to put attention on, this is what I need to do differently. But the difference between a codependent and a narcissist is there's no grandiose personality structure to hold that in place. It's just a belief system that other people's needs are more important. Because where it comes from is in childhood, and this happens like starting around age 2, it's not necessarily caused by abuse or neglect, codependence. It can be, but it might be, although I would argue that it's emotional neglect, but the parent could be really physically present with the child all the time. Mm-hmm. It's just, if the parent's codependent, like this was what caused my own codependence, because I'm still healing my own codependence. And I really want to be clear, it's not my mom's fault. Mm-hmm. She didn't get empathy and emotional attunement from her parents. So she had a belief, if you're not okay, I'm not okay.
Yes.
So when I was sad, when I was little, she would just say, don't feel that way. Think this way instead. So what that did is I never got the ability to put my feelings into words.
Yes.
I just had to dismiss them right away and think differently. And I got that a little because my parents did read parenting books to validate my feelings when I was little. So it's like, this is not about blaming my parents. I just want to be clear about that. Yeah. Or blaming anybody's parents. It's usually like emotional. I actually really like the book Running on Empty. I forgot who wrote it, but it's about childhood emotional neglect. Because emotional neglect, it's kind of like if you look at a family photo and everyone seems happy. Mm-hmm. People who are emotionally neglected don't even necessarily know they were because you don't know what you should have gotten that you didn't get.
Yes. Yep.
It's like the space between the people that's missing, not the people.
Yeah.
That's how she puts it. But what we actually need when we're little is to have our feelings reflected in words, to have our needs identified. Like, let's figure out what you need. Mm-hmm. And to be modeled healthy boundaries. Like, this is okay, this is not okay, here's why. Explaining why to the child so that they feel you respect them, not just like because I say so, because that's authoritarian. And once they understand why we do it this way, then they have the ability to develop healthy internal and external boundaries and structure so that it's okay for me to have my feelings and you to have different feelings. Mm-hmm. And I'm not responsible for your feelings. You're not responsible for my feelings. But I can give empathy and care from a healthful place. And if the parent is not codependent, so they can model that, then the child learns my feelings and needs are okay. And there's healthy ways to get my feelings and needs met. And that prevents them from acting out or just suppressing and denying their feelings. And if all they learn, like I did, was to suppress and deny their feelings, then that sets up a belief that, well, my feelings aren't important. What I need to do is take care of the other person so that they feel good. And if they feel good, then that's all I need to feel good.
Yes. Yeah, I guess because there's so much here to unpack. So, and by the way, thanks for sharing the personal information, that the history with your mother. It almost sounds like heartbreaking because you couldn't really exist in your true self, that is, in that relationship because you weren't free, from what I heard, to express your own feelings. At least if they were the feelings that I guess your mother couldn't tolerate for some reason. Is that right, Valerie? Or?
Yeah, and I do feel compassion for her. This is not about blaming her because I know about her childhood and that her mom couldn't do that for her either. So it's ancestral. You're right. So it's not about blame. But yes, it is sad. And when I do my own inner child work, so that's part of the healing. Because like I said, it's a belief system and a skill set. So the beliefs about healthy interdependence is that my needs are equally important to yours.
Yes.
And the beliefs about healthy self-care emotionally are about self-soothing and reparenting. and then learning the skills for that. So the belief is, and this is the work I do with myself, that if I identify a belief that, like, let's say how it manifests, right? Like, I'll talk about how it manifests with me, with my husband currently, but it's like, I'll talk about too how it manifests with my clients. For example, how it manifests with my husband currently is if I'm triggered and I don't know how to self-soothe, then
the trigger may be what? Do you know what the trigger is, or not at that moment? You're just triggered.
What I'll say is I've mostly healed my own codependence, so I do recognize that I'm triggered.
Okay. Do you know what triggered you, or again, not at that moment? You just know that you are triggered, or do you know what caused the trigger?
Oh yeah, I know what caused it, but the point is, I should probably come up with an example. So, like, let's say I'm currently healing from a hip injury, so I can't wash the dishes just because it's standing and lifting things and moving around. So our agreement is that he'll wash the dishes, but he actually doesn't have time for it, because it's really my job when we've delegated our responsibilities. So he doesn't always get to it. So let's say there's like no clean water bottles and I'm going to physical therapy, and he said he would wash the water bottles for days. They've been sitting in the sink, and like, I don't have a water bottle. I'm thirsty. I need to leave the house now. I'm going to be late,
Yes.
So it's like, that's an example where if I know how to self-soothe, then what that means is, like I said, it's a belief system and a skill set.
Okay.
So I know how to challenge my limiting beliefs. The limiting belief is he should have done it by now.
Yes.
And if I tell him that, he'll get defensive and we'll be arguing.
Okay, I'm with you. Yes.
So I need to challenge that limiting belief by saying, I don't want to should on anybody. What's the truth? The truth is that he said he would do it, and why didn't he?
Yes.
He's really busy, and it's not even his job in the first place.
I understand historically it's not his job, but things change. You're having a problem with your hip. But he agreed to do it. So does that change things? See, in my mind already, Valerie, that changes the dynamic now, because if he really didn't want to do it, he should say, listen, I don't have the time to do this. I would love to help you, but I can't.
Exactly.
He agreed to it. So now it's his responsibility.
Right. I completely agree.
Okay.
The question is, how do I communicate that?
Yes. Okay. I'm with you. Let me keep listening. This is really interesting, by the way. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because what codependents don't have the ability to do is have an awareness that my feelings and needs are okay, but so are yours. And to have that healthy separation, because in our interview, when I interviewed you, you talked about the lack of differentiation.
Yes.
And so it's the same thing with codependence. I believe that if he said he would do it, then I'm objectifying him and just not having the ability to care about the impact of my communication on him, because I'm not differentiated enough. So in order to be differentiated, I have to have compassion for my own feelings and needs, and I have to have compassion for his feelings and needs when I communicate it. Otherwise, I'm talking at him.
Okay.
And if I'm talking at him, then I'm patronizing him.
Yes.
I'm saying, you said you do it, you didn't do it, what's it going to take to do it?
Yes.
And then if I tune in on a subtle level, I'm elevating my status and patronizing him. So I'm not differentiated. If I'm differentiated, which is the skill of healing codependence, I would say, I know there's a valid reason why you didn't do it. I get that it's not your job in the first place and that you were really busy. At the same time, I value integrity. Mm-hmm. And I know you do too. So it's actually when an agreement's made and it's not kept, I feel ungrounded. Mm-hmm. And I want to brainstorm solutions with you to see how we can work this out together. What support do you need from me in a way that is in line with what works for me? This is why we need to be healthily differentiated. Because I'm not going to just do whatever you ask, right? It's about collaboration.
Yes.
So healing codependence is about learning the skill of collaboration, that I have feelings and needs, you have feelings and needs, and we can come up with a win-win solution that meets both of them. Okay. So maybe we'll come up with a solution that, like, I can do something that I am capable of doing.
Yes.
Like doing some computer work for him so he can make time to do the dishes. And he didn't realize he needed that before, So it's only if I bring it up to him in a way where I'm not blaming, criticizing, patronizing him, telling him what to do.
I love this because, again, just for the listeners, we're alluding to an earlier interview, but Valerie and I did an interview on her channel, which I'll link below. But in that interview, we were talking about how one has to be in a regulated state of mind in order to contain something that's coming at you. So in Valerie's very rich example, what's coming at her is the water bottles are not clean, right? So her husband is not attacking her. He's not devaluing her, but still it's evoking a very strong feeling. And thank you for this, Valerie. You're doing a really nice job describing what you and I were talking about earlier, which is the difference between trying to talk to somebody about a feeling in a dysregulated state, which you said you would be patronizing, right? And telling him what he didn't do or what he needs to do, which we know where that's going to go. There's no doubt. That's going to go south very quickly. But in your own separated, right? That's the word, like self-differentiated state of mind. And by the way, this is empathy too. And you're validating, by the way, as well, because you could appreciate that maybe he was too busy or he didn't get to it. But then you're able to talk to him, right? About, okay, how can we make this work together? Beautiful. I love it. What did I miss though? I'm summarizing it just to make sure I got it and just to drive it home with the listeners. But did I get it all or did I miss something?
Oh, absolutely. I do want to talk about what are other pitfalls and consequences, because that's just, my example.
Pitfalls and consequences of when you're not able to do that the way that you just described to us, right? Is that what you mean?
Well, exactly. And there's other signs of codependence. So it also can be low self-esteem, blurred boundaries, self-sacrifice. That's the people pleasing. Like, it's my job to take care of others. And so the consequences of having those beliefs is that codependent people don't notice red flags when they're dating because their focus is on, let me make the other person like me, not what are my deep values and emotional needs and vision for the culture I want to create, and does this person want the same thing? And do they have the ability to connect with me on a deep level emotionally?
Okay.
And so that's why codependents tend to get in relationships with narcissists or with addicts, just because they miss the red flags in the beginning, because in the beginning it's the love bombing and it feels good, but there's no depth. So we need to heal codependence so that we're capable of sustaining our own sense of emotional depth.
But they can also get in those relationships. I would imagine they can get in them because there's also a feeling, which seems important to them, that they could take care of that other person, right? Because a narcissist and an addict is, of course, they're damaged in some way, and they need their own type of care and mothering. So does the codependent, do they pick up on that? Is that part of the reason maybe that kind of relationship works for them?
Well, exactly, because it feels familiar.
Okay. Good point. That's your mom again, right? Like you were taking care of your mother in that example that you gave. Emotionally, you were taking care of her.
Emotionally, right. Yeah. And I want to highlight that, my mom was extremely present with me physically. So I'm not that codependent. It's a spectrum, but of course I am still healing. It could be caused by also not the parents' fault. Like, let's say two parents have full-time jobs and they're not available to really, when they get home, they're exhausted and they're not available to mirror the child's feelings and help them figure out what they need just because they're exhausted. And then the child thinks, if I help mommy and daddy, then I'll get more time with them. So then they're over-parentified. Then they're put in a parentified role where I'm only valuable for taking care of others. That's what I get rewarded for.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's not like abuse or neglect traditionally.
Yeah.
It's just this outward orientation where my personality is based on my value comes from taking care of others. And that becomes a habit. And then we get so much validation from that, as we mentioned in your interview. I feel good about myself. I feel satisfied because I'm taking care of the other person, and that feels really gratifying. But we expect to get that back from the other person eventually.
Yes.
And then when we don't, that's when, if we have low self-esteem, we just settle and say, this is as good as we can get, and we can't leave because we don't want to be lonely. It's the devil we know. Or sweep conflict under the rug and then eventually say something, but because we're not self-connected to have empathy for our deeper feelings and needs and say it in the way that I described earlier, we eventually say it in a way where, like, I need you to change.
Yeah.
And then we get confirmation back that the other person can't hear our feelings. But it's not that they can't hear our feelings. It's the way I expressed it that didn't land well. Now, it's not their fault they got defensive. That's their stuff. Right. But, it's like, it's my responsibility to communicate in a way where I'm deeply self-connected to my feelings and needs. And then I can have empathy for your feelings and needs so that we can create that win-win solution that works for both of us, because that's interdependence. But so it's, first of all, reprogramming beliefs about interdependence is healthy. Boundaries are healthy. Because codependents don't know how to set healthy boundaries. Yeah. They think a healthy boundary is telling someone what to do. But a boundary is not about telling someone what to do.
And a boundary is not walking away. I just want to be very clear and go back to that example, because that, again, beautiful example you gave. You did create a boundary, but you were very invested. You were talking, using language, connected. So there was a boundary that was necessary in order to be connected, because that often gets misconstrued, I think, in the literature or the social media content, which is people think a boundary means putting up a wall, walking away. Yeah. But that boundary was within yourself and enabled you to be more connected to him.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the beliefs about boundaries. And then there's also the skill about how to establish healthy boundaries. So that's when I work with people, I help them reprogram the belief, but then also we have to learn the skill. And I do that through role plays.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Maybe you could just say another word about that, because I was wondering what kind of support people need, in order to develop or to not develop, but to stop. I'm sorry, I'm not so articulate, but to stop the codependency. Yeah.
Right. No, exactly. So first of all, I'll talk about all of the steps to healing. So the first step is about the inner work, is about, first of all, reprogramming these limiting beliefs that we don't even know we have, i.e. that boundaries are, putting up walls or leaving, what are boundaries actually and why are they important? And beliefs about emotional self-care. That's important, because a lot of people think self-care is, which is self-care. Like I hear from my clients all the time, I went out and got a manicure today and that's self-care. It is. Or I went to the gym. It is. Yep. It's just not emotional self-care. And so what that is it's learning how to put feelings and needs into words and learning how to give ourselves empathy and compassion for our own feelings and needs so that we're not needy. Because the definition of being needy is that I can't handle feeling this way, so I need something to change right now.
Yes.
As opposed to learning how to self-soothe, which is about mindfulness. It's developing. So when I work with my clients, I help them develop a healthy inner mother archetype and a healthy inner father archetype. The healthy inner mother, and this is just mindfulness, because we have 3 brains. When we're triggered, our blood leaves our cortex and just goes into our arms and legs so we can run away or fight. So doing the inner child work brings the blood back into the cortex so that we can actually have compassion for our emotions. The inner mother says, oh my gosh, you're feeling dysregulated. Let's figure out what you're feeling and needing.
Yes. Yep.
And give you compassion for that and figure out how to get that need met in a healthy way.
Yep. I love that you distinguish between a need and neediness. That's so important, and things that people often confuse, especially people who are narcissistically vulnerable and are in that pleasing mode, because when they express a need, they feel like they're being needy. And to be needy is so pathetic in their mind, right? But they can't differentiate between a need and being needy. And I appreciate that you brought that to our attention, because it's appropriate. Everybody, all of us have needs. It's just the way they get expressed. That's the critical piece.
Right, exactly. And the outer work is learning how to express it, but the inner work needs to come first. Because in order to express it in a way where we care about the other person too, and the impact of how we're sharing, is first of all, we need to recognize that there's many ways to get this need met, not just from the other person right now.
Yes.
And that's something that the healthy mother, inner mother archetype helps. I love the modality of nonviolent communication. In my opinion, it's not just a communication modality, because there is a distinction in there that I teach to all my clients between a need and a strategy to get that need met. So like if I need connection with this other person, right? I do, right? If we're in a healthy interdependent relationship, I need connection with them.
Yes.
But I don't need connection with them right now if they need space. Let's say my husband, when he comes home from work, needs 30 minutes of time to recharge before I talk to him. And I need to talk to him about my day to feel connected. But if we talk about that, we can brainstorm that what I can do during those 30 minutes to get my need for connection met while I'm waiting for him. Maybe I can journal about how I'm feeling and feel connected to myself. Maybe I can talk to a girlfriend so that I can feel connected to her. So it's like learning how to be healthfully independent before we could be interdependent. Independence means that I know how to get my needs met without a romantic relationship. And obviously the only need that can only be met in a romantic relationship is our sexual needs. But even those happen in collaboration, right? It's not like I get to decide when we have sex. That is something we collaborate on. And I need to be able to tolerate discomfort in order to collaborate. And so that's what the healthy inner mother does, is give me compassion and soothing and helping me to figure out what other ways I can get my need met so I can express it in a way that is attuned.
One of the questions that I wanted to ask as I was listening to this is, like, what's the outcome of the work? Like, what does life look like on the other side of codependency? But I think you're answering that question. Developing through the tools that you're giving, right, the capacity to begin to feel more comfortable expressing a need like this, right? To turn to somebody and let them know what you need.
Exactly. In a way that is collaborative, that recognizes that the other person has feelings and needs too, and that you're willing to collaborate if they say no. So that's the skill of recognizing that, you know, I can ask for support, and if the person can't give it, there's other ways to get that need met.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. I want to thank you so much, Valerie. I want to leave time, though, because I know that you want to tell us you have a free giveaway of some sort that we want to get to. But before we do, I just want to say I really appreciate your examples. I mean, sometimes we get too caught up, you know, in like broad terms of like what needs to happen or different concepts. But your illustration and your personal disclosure really drove it home, for me at least, and I hope for the listeners as well. So without further ado, let's get to you have some kind of giveaway, is that right, that you wanted to offer to the listeners?
Yes, thank you. So I do have a free ebook. And basically, I wrote a longer book called The Commitment Roadmap. It's meant for single women. So if you're either a married woman or a man, change the pronouns or the status, but the tool should still work for you. It's 2 free chapters out of my book. So basically, I call it Break Free of Old Patterns to Attract Lasting Love. And what it is it's my structure to determine what were the needs that weren't met in childhood. And if you're single, it's about what qualities does the other person have to have that you're vetting for that they can meet these needs. If you're in a relationship, it's about what requests can I make in a collaborative way to get these needs met. And then the next chapter is how to get these needs met yourself. So I give my 5-step process for challenging limiting beliefs, identifying what your needs are, what your feelings and needs are, and then how to brainstorm solutions to get those needs met, not from your partner, so that you're not going to be needy. Yes. I basically break down all the skills that I talked about. And of course, if you read the book and can do it on your own, that's wonderful. That's my free gift to you. And then if you want more support, then of course I'm available.
That sounds incredibly valuable. Everybody, I would take advantage. I'm going to go take advantage of that. I'll put the information below for further details. So thank you so much, Valerie, for joining me today and my audience. This has been such an insightful discussion. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I'm looking forward. We said it in the earlier recording of doing this a bit more, because I know there's still so much more. You probably have so much more to say, I would imagine, on codependency, but we're going to have to save it for next time. Okay, Valerie, thank you again so much. And to everybody, until next time, bye for now. Bye, Valerie. Disclaimer alert. The Narcissism Decoder podcast is provided for general information purposes only. The content presented in this podcast is not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any psychological condition related to narcissism. The content on this podcast should not be considered a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. For specific advice pertaining to narcissism or any other psychological condition, you could reach me directly. I am an experienced mental health practitioner who is always taking on new patients. If you would just like a consultation, I can do that too.